So I want you to imagine something. Just picture yourself standing at the bottom of these grand, sprawling marble steps. Like maybe you're outside the Louvre in Paris.
Oh, yeah. Such an iconic spot.
Right. Or maybe it's the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And you are, you're an English learner. You've studied for years. You have memorized all your grammar rules. You've practiced your vocabulary flashcards until you're blue in the face.
Well, I feel totally prepared.
Exactly. You feel ready. But then you step through those massive, heavy glass doors, and suddenly you are just drowning in this sea of thousands of chattering tourists.
It's intense.
It really is. The acoustics are echoing, the pace of everything is just incredibly fast, and frankly, the staff members look completely exhausted. And in that exact moment, all of that perfect, heavy textbook armor you built up, it just completely evaporates. Your brain totally freezes.
Yeah, and it is a profoundly overwhelming moment. It really is. Because what you're experiencing right there is the absolute collision of two very intense things.
Right.
First, you have language anxiety, which is, that tightening in your chest when you're just terrified of making a grammar mistake in front of a native speaker.
Oh, I know that feeling so well.
We all do. I mean, it's universal. But second, on top of that, you are facing cultural intimidation.
Yes. Let's talk about that because that is huge.
It really is. I mean, these world-famous institutions, they're architecturally designed to make you feel small. The ceilings are soaring. The artwork is historically monumental. And frankly, the environment can make even native English speakers feel completely inadequate.
Which is exactly why we're here today.
Mm.
So welcome to the deep dive. And if you're listening to this right now, I want you to just take a breath.
Yes, exactly. Just breathe.
If you can, lie down. Relax, stretch out on your sofa, or if you're commuting on a train, just, settle deeply into your seat. Today, we're really taking our time.
No rushing today.
None at all. There is absolutely no stress here, and I promise you there are no boring textbook drills either. Our mission in this deep dive is to extract the ultimate, natural, everyday linguistic survival guide for visiting museums and exhibitions abroad.
That's the goal.
We're going to help you completely ditch that stiff, robotic English. We want you to navigate these massive cultural spaces comfortably and confidently, without sounding like a walking dictionary.
And definitely without sounding like an art snob.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst.
Right. Oh, it is. But avoiding that is really the master key to this whole experience. If you can master the conversational, low-stress, everyday phrases, you drastically reduce your cognitive load.
Which means your brain isn't working quite so hard on the language part.
Right. You stop worrying about your verb tenses, and you finally have the mental energy to actually, look up and enjoy the breathtaking art right in front of you, which is why you're there in the first place. So true. So let's just, let's walk through this journey together chronologically. Let's go back to those front doors. You've walked up the steps, you've passed the security check, and now you're facing the very first major hurdle of the day.
The ticket counter.
Yes.
The ticket gate.
The great equalizer. I mean, no matter who you are, you have to pass through the ticket counter.
And let's set the scene here, because it is inherently stressful. There's this massive line of people behind you. They're shifting their weight, checking their watches, maybe sighing loudly.
The pressure is definitely on.
Oh, for sure. You step up to that thick glass partition, and the panic just sets in. And we see this reflex all the time for English learners. The immediate instinct, when you're nervous, is to fall back on the most formal, complete sentence you can possibly construct.
Right, because you think that's the safest route.
Exactly. So a learner might step up to the glass and say something like, hello, sir, I want to buy 2 tickets for the museum exhibition.
Which is, it's perfectly understandable, and grammatically it absolutely gets the job done. But from a conversational standpoint,
it's a bit clunky.
Very. It's incredibly stiff. It sounds almost mechanical.
Let's really explore that instinct, though. Why do we do this? Because I'll admit, when I'm nervous in a foreign language, I definitely default to sounding like some sort of 19th century aristocrat.
Oh, absolutely.
It kind of feels like, it feels like wearing a tuxedo to the beach,
A tuxedo to the beach. That is a brilliant analogy.
Right, because you're wearing this highly formal, rigid, complicated, linguistic outfit into a situation that actually requires something light, flexible, and easy.
Yeah, you wear the tuxedo because you think it makes you look respectful.
Exactly. But in reality, it just makes you look deeply uncomfortable. And honestly, it slows the entire beach party down.
The beach party being the giant line of tourists waiting behind you.
Right. So What learners often misunderstand about high-speed transactional environments like a massive museum ticket desk in London or New York is the actual nature of politeness in that context.
Right. Because we are traditionally taught that full, complex sentences are polite.
That's what the textbooks say.
Yes. But in this specific context, brevity, just keeping it short, is actually the greatest form of politeness. Think about the person behind the glass. They are processing thousands of visitors a day. They're dealing with noise and echoes.
They really don't need a full subject-verb-object declarative sentence.
Not at all. If they have to parse through 10 words when 2 words would do, you aren't really being polite. You're just adding to their workload.
That makes so much sense. So what is the beachwear equivalent here? Like, what is the natural, smooth way to handle the ticket desk without the tuxedo?
Well, you step up, you offer a simple smile, and you just say, "Hi, 2 adults, please."
Just that.
Just that. Or you might say, "2 general admissions, please." That is the entire interaction.
Okay, let me push back on that for a second. Just on behalf of anyone listening who might feel a little anxious about being that direct. 2 adults, please. It feels almost uncomfortably short.
I can see how it feels that way.
Like, as a learner, I might feel like I'm treating the human being behind the desk like a vending machine. Are we absolutely sure this isn't rude?
I completely understand that fear. It's very common. But you have to trust the rhythm of native everyday English here. The word please, at the very end of that short phrase, it does all the heavy lifting for politeness.
Oh, I see. So it softens the edges.
Exactly. It softens the entire request. You are being efficient, which is a kindness to the staff member, but you are also signaling respect. And I want to highlight the other phrase you mentioned too, general admission.
Okay, let's slow down and really break that one down. Admission. The stress is right there in the middle, right?
That's right. General admission. This is a critical piece of vocabulary for any traveler. General admission basically means the standard foundational entry ticket.
The basic pass.
Exactly. It gets you through the front door and gives you access to the permanent everyday collections.
Which is super important to clarify because a lot of these mega museums, they operate on a tiered system now. They have the standard stuff, but then they have those highly advertised temporary exhibitions that cost extra money.
Precisely. Let's say there's a special temporary Leonardo da Vinci exhibition up on the 3rd floor, and you want to know if your basic ticket covers that. Again, you do not need a complex multi-clause inquiry.
Please tell me I don't need the tuxedo here either.
No tuxedo required. You don't need to say, "Excuse me, could you inform me if the monetary value of this ticket grants me access to the upper levels?"
Oh, wow. Just hearing that makes me exhausted.
Right, it's too much.
Yeah.
Instead, you just hold up your ticket and ask, "Does this include the special exhibition?" Short, sweet, perfectly natural.
Does this include the special exhibition?
Yeah.
So easy. Okay, so you have successfully navigated the ticket counter. You survived. You are in. You have the general admission tickets in your hand. But wait, we cannot run off and look at the art just yet.
No, definitely not.
There is a crucial physical step you have to take first, especially if you're traveling in the winter or if you're carrying a heavy bag.
Ah, yes. The cloakroom. Or, in North American English, it is almost exclusively called the coat check.
The coat check. Let's paint a very visceral picture here for the listener.
Yeah.
Let's say you're visiting Paris in December. It is freezing, maybe it's snowing outside, so naturally you're wearing a heavy wool winter coat, a thick scarf, and you have this big backpack with your water bottle and umbrella.
A classic tourist setup.
Right. And you walk into the Louvre. Now, these buildings are heavily heated to protect the art and keep the staff comfortable. If you bypass the coat check, within 15 minutes, you are going to be sweating profusely.
It is a physical distraction that will entirely ruin your mental experience of the museum. I mean, you'll be dragging a massive wool coat over your arm for 4 hours while trying to appreciate delicate Renaissance paintings.
It sounds miserable. But beyond just physical comfort, the vocabulary around this area is highly specific. And it's a bit tricky. The key verb we use here is to check.
Yes, and this is a word that frequently trips up learners because check is one of those incredibly versatile English words with a dozen different meanings.
Exactly. I mean, you can check your email on your phone. You can check a box on a customs form. You can ask the waiter for the check at the end of a meal. So what does it mean in this specific environment?
In the context of a cloakroom or a hotel lobby, to check means to temporarily leave an item in the formal custody of someone else for safekeeping.
Got it.
You're trusting an institution to hold it for you in exchange for a little numbered ticket. So the natural, flawless phrase to use is simply, "Hi, can I check my bag and coat?"
Can I check my backpack? That flows so nicely. And honestly, it is not just about your personal body temperature. Many of these world-class institutions actually legally require you to check large backpacks. Like, they will physically stop you from walking into the galleries if you're wearing one.
And there's a very practical, spatial reason for that strict rule. When you wear a bulky backpack, your center of gravity and your spatial awareness completely change. You're wider and deeper than you realize.
Oh no, I see where this is going.
Yeah. Imagine you're standing in a quiet gallery. Your friend calls your name from across the room. You spin around quickly to point at a painting, and suddenly your backpack swings out behind you.
Crash.
Exactly. You have just knocked over a priceless 600-year-old Ming Dynasty vase.
That is the ultimate heart-stopping travel nightmare, destroying millions of dollars of irreplaceable human history just because you didn't feel confident enough to walk up to a counter and say, "Can I check my bag?"
It's terrifying. So please, for the sake of your own sanity and for the safety of the Ming vases, check your bags.
Seriously. It's a 5-word phrase that prevents a historical catastrophe.
Can I check my bag? Simple as that.
Okay, so the heavy winter coat is checked. The backpack is safely stored away. We are light, we are free, and the Ming vases are secure. Now, the real challenge begins. We are moving from the lobby into the actual galleries. And this brings us to the art of navigating the labyrinth, getting lost, and finding your way.
Labyrinth is truly the perfect word here. We're talking about architectural spaces that are overwhelmingly, almost dangerously huge. They are mazes of hallways, staircases, and dead ends.
There's this incredibly common phenomenon we see all the time, particularly at the Louvre. People walk in with one goal: find the Mona Lisa.
Always the Mona Lisa.
Right. But the signage is confusing, the crowds are pushing you, and before you know it, you're hopelessly lost. You're trying to find this small 16th century Italian portrait, and somehow you just keep looping through the ancient Egypt section.
It happens to everyone.
You walk through a door, and boom, there's a giant stone sphinx. Again.
It is a universal museum experience.
It really is. So let's say you are trapped in the ancient Egypt loop for the 4th time.
Yeah.
You finally spot a museum staff member in a uniform. How do you ask for help? Because the absolute standard textbook instinct for any learner is to walk straight up and say, "Where is the Mona Lisa?" or "Where is the dinosaur exhibit?"
Now, where is grammatically flawless. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the structure. But let's look at the emotional tone of it for a second.
Okay, let's unpack that.
In a vast, confusing space, walking up to a stranger and saying, "Where is the dinosaur exhibit?" It can feel a bit abrupt. It borders on an interrogation.
I can definitely hear that. It's very transactional, almost demanding. Like, give me the location now.
Exactly. If you want to sound incredibly natural, smooth, and socially polished, there is a brilliant alternative phrasing. You can say, "Could you point me toward the dinosaur exhibit?"
Could you point me toward the dinosaur exhibit? Let's really listen to the sounds of that phrase, because the pronunciation is key here, right?
It is.
Could you point me toward... The word toward. Notice how we don't hit the W super hard. It's not toward. It's more like toward. Could you point me toward the exhibit? Why does that phrasing change the entire feeling of the conversation?
It creates a massive psychological shift. When you say, "Where is the dinosaur exhibit?"
Yeah.
You're demanding a direct, factual street address.
Right.
You're placing the entire burden on the staff member to verbally map out a highly complex route. Go down this hall, take a left at the stairs, past the cafeteria, go to the 2nd floor. It's exhausting for them to explain.
It really is.
But when you ask, "Could you point me toward?" you are intentionally softening the request. You're literally just asking for a physical gesture. You're asking for a general direction.
Oh, I love that. You're essentially saying, look, I know this building is massive. I don't expect you to draw me a map. Just give me a hint. Should I go left or right? It takes the pressure off both of you. It's a collaborative request for guidance rather than a demand for a final destination.
Exactly. It acknowledges the vastness of the space.
But here's where the concept of navigating a museum gets really interesting. What if you don't actually want to ask for directions at all?
Okay, I like where this is going.
What if getting a little lost is the whole point of the trip? There is a word that I absolutely adore, and I think it is crucial for having a truly relaxing cultural experience. The verb is to wander.
Wander. It is a beautiful word, both conceptually and phonetically. And for our listeners, let's pay close attention to the vowel sound here.
Yes, let's break that down.
It looks like it should be pronounced with a hard A, like an apple, but it's actually a soft ah sound, like in water. Wander. Not to be confused with wonder, which has an sound like an up.
That's a really great distinction. So to wander means to walk around slowly, casually, with absolutely no strict plan or specific destination in mind. It's the opposite of marching. It's the opposite of, commuting to work.
Right. If we look at the psychology of a traveler, especially a traveler who might be anxious about their English or anxious about seeing everything they paid for, the instinct is always to overplan.
Oh, totally.
You walk in, you grab the paper map at the entrance, you circle the 5 famous things you think you were supposed to see, and you basically treat the museum like a grocery store checklist.
Which completely ruins the magic.
Yeah.
You spend the whole time staring down at a crumpled piece of paper, stressing out about taking the wrong staircase, instead of actually looking up at the art. A much healthier approach is to tell your travel partner, hey, let's just skip the map for now. Let's just wander around the first floor and see where the day takes us.
There is immense value in that approach. When you abandon the rigid, stressful plan and allow yourself to simply wander, you open yourself up to serendipity.
Yes.
The most memorable travel moments happen when you accidentally wander out of the ancient sculpture wing and find yourself in a contemporary photography exhibit that you never would have planned to visit, but it completely moves you.
Wandering is an intentional act of giving up control. You let the architecture guide you. It immediately lowers your heart rate. You're no longer on a frantic mission. You're just a calm observer in a beautiful space.
But, of course, eventually, whether you are on a strict mission to find a specific painting or you're just casually wandering, you are going to find yourself standing perfectly still, directly in front of a piece of art.
And sometimes, sometimes that piece of art is going to be utterly, profoundly confusing.
Often, yes.
Which brings us to arguably the most intimidating part of the entire museum experience. Decoding the art itself. How do we navigate the pressure to understand high culture? And how do we choose authenticity over snobbery?
Standing in front of the artwork is where cultural intimidation hits its absolute peak.
Let's visualize a very specific modern art scenario. You're standing in a pristine, brightly lit gallery. You're looking at a giant, completely blank white canvas. And in the very center of that enormous canvas is a single small red dot.
Okay, I can picture it.
That is the entire painting.
And right next to that painting, mounted on the wall, is a small white informational plaque.
The plaque. The English written on those plaques is usually terrifying for a learner. Honestly, it's often terrifying for native speakers.
It really is.
The plaque for the red dot will say something incredibly dense, like the artist explores the juxtaposition of existential dread and societal emptiness, and you, the visitor, are standing there looking at a red dot, or maybe you're looking at a wooden chair that the artist literally glued to the ceiling thinking, I have no idea what the word juxtaposition means, and I have absolutely no idea why this chair on the ceiling is considered a masterpiece.
It induces a profound feeling of alienation. We have to understand that the language used in high culture spaces, what we call art jargon, it's intentionally complex. It's often written by academics for other academics and critics.
Right. It's not meant for casual conversation.
No, it's not written for the everyday conversationalist. So for an English learner, the internal pressure is immense. You feel like you need an advanced degree and a dictionary just to justify your right to stand in the room.
Let me represent the anxious learner here for a second. Let's say I'm at the MoMA in New York with some native-speaking friends or colleagues. My friend points to the chair glued to the ceiling and asks, "What do you think of this piece?" I am terrified of sounding stupid. If I admit I don't understand it, won't they judge me? Won't I sound uneducated? How do I answer without sounding like a robot, but also without faking it and sounding like a pretentious art snob?
That is the ultimate tightrope walk. And the secret here, the absolute most confident thing you can possibly do is to give yourself permission to have a simple, authentic reaction. You do not need to use words like juxtaposition to prove you belong there. Authenticity is the highest form of cultural fluency.
I love that. Authenticity over jargon.
Exactly. Let's start with a positive reaction. Let's say you aren't looking at the red dot, but you're looking at a beautiful, sweeping, colorful landscape painting, and you genuinely deeply like it. You don't need to analyze the brushstrokes. You can simply say, wow, I am really drawn to this one.
I'm really drawn to this one. Let's look at the mechanics of that phrase. To be drawn to something. It's like a magnetic pull, right?
Precisely. It's a passive feeling. You aren't puffing up your chest and declaring, I have analyzed this painting and determined it is objectively a masterpiece.
Right. You're not an art critic.
No. You're humbly saying, this painting is pulling my attention. It catches my eye. I feel a personal connection to it.
And notice how naturally those words link together when we speak. We don't say drawn to this. The N in drawn flows right into the T into, I'm really drawn to this one. It sounds so fluid.
It's very natural.
Another great phrase that does a similar thing is, this one really speaks to me. It sounds a little bit deep, maybe a tiny bit poetic, but it is a very common, highly natural way to express a positive connection. It implies the art is communicating a specific emotion to you, even if you can't put that emotion into academic vocabulary.
Both of those phrases, drawn to this and speaks to me, they're bulletproof because they rely entirely on your internal subjective feeling. No art critic in the world can ever tell you that your personal feeling is wrong.
Okay, I love that for the things I actually like. But let's go back to the blank canvas with the red dot. What if it does not speak to me?
Fair question.
What if the red dot is completely silent? What if I look at the chair on the ceiling and I just think it's ridiculous, or I'm just totally confused by it?
Then you embrace honesty. The pressure to pretend you understand abstract art is universal, but it's entirely unnecessary. A confident English speaker doesn't pretend. There is a wonderfully blunt yet perfectly polite phrase you can use. You just say, I don't really get this one.
I don't really get this one. The verb get here, simply meaning understand. It's so incredibly casual.
It's casual and it projects self-assurance. But there is an even better phrase, and I want to spend some time on it because it is a brilliant piece of spatial metaphor.
Ooh, let's hear it.
If the art is too abstract, too complicated, or just too weird, you can simply smile and say, this one goes a bit over my head.
Let's really unpack that phrase because idioms can be tricky for learners. It goes over my head. I want you, the listener, to literally visualize this in your mind.
It's a great image.
Imagine the concept of the artwork. The deep, hidden meaning of the red dot is a physical object. Let's say it's a baseball. The artist threw the baseball towards you. But instead of you catching the baseball in your hands, which would represent you understanding the art, the baseball just sails completely over your head into the distance.
It is a fantastic visual idiom. It acknowledges that there might indeed be a high-level, complex meaning intended by the artist, but that meaning is quite literally floating in the air above your current physical comprehension. It's out of your reach today.
And the absolute beauty of saying, it goes over my head, is that it's not an insult to the artist, and it's not an insult to yourself either.
Yes.
You aren't aggressively saying, this art is stupid trash, and you aren't saying, I am too stupid to understand this. You're just humbly, gracefully saying, the concepts here are a bit too abstract for me right now.
If we look at the psychology of the language learner here, this phrase acts as a protective shield. By giving yourself the grace and permission to say, I don't get it, or it goes over my head, you instantly diffuse all the pressure of the museum. You protect yourself from the exhausting need to sound like a critic. Honesty is truly the most liberating way to experience high culture.
Honesty is liberating. It means you can stand in total awe in front of a breathtaking dinosaur skeleton where you can clearly see the bones, the massive teeth, the undeniable reality of it and say, I am really drawn to this. And then 5 minutes later, you could walk into the next room, look at an installation made entirely of green painted metal pipes, and confidently say, I don't get this one. It goes over my head. And both of those reactions are perfectly valid, and they're both expressed in perfect natural English.
And frankly, navigating those extreme emotional highs and lows, trying to intellectually process green pipes and ancient sarcophagi while surrounded by crowds, it takes a massive toll on the human body.
Which brings us perfectly to the physical reality of our journey. Because eventually, no matter how much you love art, no matter how comfortable your shoes are, the museum will defeat you. We need to talk about the very real phenomenon of museum fatigue and the glorious escape of the gift shop.
Museum fatigue is a clinically recognized phenomenon. We need to be clear here. It is not just feeling a little bit sleepy. It is a very specific, profound state of exhaustion.
Let's validate this for everyone listening. If you have ever felt like you wanted to collapse after 2 hours in a gallery, you are not weak. You are not a bad tourist. You are experiencing something incredibly taxing on your body and brain. Let's break down why it happens. First, you have the physical environment. You're walking at a very slow, shuffling pace.
Right, the museum shuffle.
Physiologically, walking incredibly slowly is actually much harder on your lower back and your foot arches than walking at a normal, brisk pace. And you're doing this on rock-hard marble or concrete floors for hours.
It is a physical endurance test. But second, and perhaps more draining, is the cognitive environment. You are in a state of constant, unrelenting sensory overload. You're looking at visually dense, highly detailed objects. You're constantly shifting your focal length from a massive statue far away to a tiny informational plaque right in front of your face.
And you're trying to read those plaques.
Exactly, often translating them from a second language in your head, all while spatially navigating around crowds of unpredictable strangers.
Your brain is constantly buzzing. What is this? What does that word mean? Oh, don't bump into that person. Don't trip over that low bench. Where's my partner? No wonder your battery drains so fast. And yet, you see people trying to view the entire Metropolitan Museum of Art in one single day?
Which is mathematically and physically impossible. Yet, millions of tourists attempt this impossible marathon every single year. And this raises a fascinating behavioral question. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we treat a beautiful cultural visit like an endurance test that must be survived?
I know exactly why. It's the scarcity mindset of travel. You think, I paid $25 for admission. I flew 12 hours to get to Paris. My vacation time is limited. If I do not see every single painting in this massive building before they close at 5 p.m., I have failed as a traveler.
That scarcity mindset practically guarantees that you will suffer. The natural, healthy response to the onset of museum fatigue is to immediately admit defeat, seek out the museum cafe, sit down on a soft chair, and drink a coffee.
Yes, please.
And linguistically, conversational English provides a brilliant, highly native-sounding slang structure to express this exact feeling of total overload.
Yes. Let's slow down here, because this might be my absolute favorite phrase in the entire deep dive. It is so fun to say. How do you tell your travel partner that your brain is full and your feet are dying? You look at them and you say, I am totally museumed out.
Let's carefully dissect the grammar of that phrase, because it is wonderfully inventive. Museum out.
Right, so we are taking the word museum, which is obviously a noun, it is a physical building.
Ugh.
But in conversational English, we love to hack our own language. We're turning that noun into a verb by attaching the suffix ed to the end of it and then adding the word out. Museum out.
This ed-out structure is a very common, highly native slang pattern. We use it to perfectly encapsulate a state of having consumed too much of something, to the point of complete exhaustion or temporary aversion.
Right.
And phonetically, listen to how you just said it. You don't pronounce a hard E and a hard D. It's not museum-ed. The D sound links directly to the word out. Museumed out.
Museumed out, exactly. Let's give another example to help the listener really grasp how flexible this is. Let's use pizza.
A great example.
If you go on a trip to Italy and you eat pizza for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 3 days straight, by the 4th day, if your friend cheerfully offers you another slice of pizza, you wouldn't just say, no, thank you. You would hold up your hands and say, I cannot. I am completely pizzaed out.
You have reached your absolute maximum physical and mental capacity for pizza, just as you can reach your maximum capacity for museums.
I love how infinitely flexible this hack is. You could be coffeeed out if you drank 4 espressos and your hands are shaking. You could be peopled out if you're a naturally introverted person who went to a huge, loud networking event and you just desperately need to sit in a quiet room alone. So when you're standing in front of your 400th painting of a bowl of fruit, you don't need to fake enthusiasm. You just turn to your friend and say, I'm getting museum fatigue. I'm totally museumed out. Can we please take a break?
And once you finally admit that you are museumed out, there's really only one logical place to go.
The grand finale of every single cultural excursion. You follow the signs, you walk down the grand staircase, and you exit through the gift shop.
The classic architectural trap, but admittedly, a very pleasant one.
Oh, I completely revel in the gift shop. Even if you promised yourself at the start of the day that you wouldn't buy anything, you always end up browsing.
Yeah.
Buy a postcard you'll never mail, a magnet for your fridge, or, if we're being honest, you buy the ultimate cultural status symbol, the museum tote bag.
The canvas tote bag is a truly fascinating cultural phenomenon, particularly in the last decade or so.
It really is. Let's talk about the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York. If you buy a simple $20 canvas tote bag with the MoMA logo on it, and you carry it around your home city to carry your groceries, you aren't just carrying a bag. You are silently broadcasting a very specific message to everyone who sees you.
You're projecting an identity. The bag silently says, I am a person who travels globally. I appreciate high culture. I have sophisticated taste. It is a signaling mechanism.
Exactly. You bump into an acquaintance at the local grocery store. They look down at your bag, and you just casually wave it off and say, oh, this old thing. Yeah, I picked it up at the MoMA the last time I was in New York. It's a badge of honor. It says you survived the labyrinth, You looked at the confusing red dot, you got totally museumed out, and you bought the canvas bag to prove it.
It serves as the physical proof of your cultural journey.
Okay, we have covered so much ground today. We have braved the cold and crossed the threshold. We navigated the echoing labyrinth. We decoded the confusing art, and we survived the inevitable physical fatigue. As we move toward the end of our deep dive, let's crystallize these moments. Let's build a lexical masterclass, focusing on what we can call pocket words. These are concrete, memorable pieces of vocabulary that you, the listener, can literally put in your pocket and carry with you on your next trip.
Let's smooth out the edges of our vocabulary.
Exactly. We're going to break down the pronunciation and usage of a few key terms, and then we'll look at how to pull everything together. Let's start with our first pocket word. It is a hyphenated concept, must-see. Must-see.
A must-see functions as a noun. It refers to a specific place, a temporary exhibit, or an individual object that is so culturally significant, so globally famous, or of such exceptional quality that it is absolutely essential to view it. It is mandatory viewing for anyone visiting that city.
So let's say you only have a 2-hour layover in a city, and you rush to a massive museum. You do not have the luxury of wandering. You have to aggressively prioritize the must-sees. Think of an Egyptian mummy exhibit or Vincent van Gogh's famous painting, Starry Night. You would turn to your partner and say, we only have a few hours, so Starry Night is an absolute must-see. We cannot leave the building without seeing it.
It's a great, punchy, decisive phrase. Moving to the second pocket word, we have a term we touched on at the ticket desk. Admission. Admission.
Right, the fee you pay or the legal right to enter the building. And there's a very practical, money-saving travel tip here regarding the word admission.
Yes. Many major state-funded museums have specific times when their standard admission rules are altered. For instance, a very common scenario in places like London or New York is that admission becomes completely free after 4:00 p.m. on a specific day of the week, like a Friday. Institutions use free evenings, discounted student admission, or senior admission to encourage broader public access to the arts.
So a smooth, natural way to use this in a conversation while planning your itinerary at the hotel would be, hey, general admission is usually $25, but I read online it's free after 4 p.m. today, so let's just go then. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to the third pocket word, and this is a powerful adjective, breathtaking.
Breathtaking. This is a descriptive word that carries a lot of emotional weight. And for our listeners, it has that tricky, the sound in the middle. Breathtaking. Your tongue needs to come slightly between your teeth for that through.
I want to really emphasize the literal physical meaning of this word so you know exactly when to use it. Break it into its two root parts, breath and taking. When you use this word, you are saying that the object you are looking at is so stunning, so overwhelmingly beautiful or massive, that it literally takes the breath straight out of your lungs.
You physically gasp.
Yes. You walk into a room, you look up at a meticulously painted gold leaf grand hall ceiling, or you look at a sparkling royal diamond necklace behind security glass, and you just instinctively gasp. That is breathtaking. It's a much, much stronger, more emotional word than just saying something is beautiful or pretty.
Beautiful is a simple intellectual observation. Breathtaking is an involuntary physical reaction.
So if your friend asks, what did you think of the grand hall ceiling?
Yeah.
You don't just say in a flat voice, it was very good. You use the word to convey your emotion. You say, oh my gosh, it was absolutely breathtaking. I couldn't stop looking up.
Excellent distinction. Now, I want to transition into a broader concept of smoothing things out. We talked earlier about taking clunky textbook sentences and refining them into natural conversation. I think it is worth revisiting the mechanics of how this transforms an interaction.
Let's do it. Let's look at the conversational dynamic of smoothing out language.
Right.
When an English learner is standing in front of that abstract green pipe sculpture and they panic and say, I don't know, what is this? We established earlier that the grammar is a bit scrambled there. But beyond just fixing the word order, how does changing that blunt phrase to, I'm not quite sure I get this one, fundamentally alter the entire conversation with the person next to them?
It completely changes the tone from a wall of frustration to an open door of curiosity. When you bluntly state, I don't know what this is, it shuts the conversation down. It sounds like a complaint. Your partner doesn't really know how to respond other than to say, me neither. It's a conversational dead end. But when you soften your language to, I'm not quite sure I get this one, you are extending an invitation. You are inviting your companion to share their perspective. You are signaling, I am trying to understand this, but I am currently struggling. What do you see? What do you think?
It is so much more collaborative. It invites a rich discussion rather than just ending it in frustration. I'm not quite sure I get this one. Do you? It's friendly, it's vulnerable, it is smooth.
And mastering that smoothness, that conversational vulnerability, is exactly what transforms you from a stressed, defensive tourist into a comfortable, confident traveler.
I love that. Let's visualize that entire transformation. Let's run through a quick, continuous mental role play where you're going to connect all these pieces, showing how a natural, fluent conversation flows from the front door all the way to the exit.
Imagine you are walking into a massive, historic natural history museum in London.
It's a chilly morning. You walk through the huge, heavy front doors, you look up at the soaring architecture, the lights streaming through the windows, and your first reaction is to turn to your friend and say, "Wow, look at the size of this building. It's breathtaking."
You approach the ticket counter. You don't freeze up. You remember to keep it simple, empathetic, and efficient. You smile at the busy staff member and say, "Hi there, 2 adults for general admission, please." And perhaps, feeling confident, you also casually ask, "Do you rent out audio guides here?"
You get your tickets. You walk over to the cloakroom and ask, "Can we check our heavy coats?"
Yeah.
You drop off the winter gear. Your friend pulls out the complex paper map, ready to plan a rigid, stressful route. But you gently put a hand on the map and say, "Honestly, let's just skip the map for now. Let's just wander around the first floor and see where the day takes us."
You wander freely. The pressure is off. You stumble upon a massive, awe-inspiring Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton. You look at it and wonder and tell your friend, "This is definitely a must-see. I'm really drawn to how they mounted the bones. It looks so dynamic."
But then, right next to the beautiful dinosaur skeleton, there's a weird, confusing contemporary exhibit, a pile of painted rocks with a long, confusing plaque about existentialism. You look at your friend. You smile without an ounce of shame, and you admit, "Yeah, I'm not quite sure I get that one. It totally goes over my head."
Time passes. The hard marble floors begin to take their toll on your body.
3 hours later, your back aches. You turn to your friend, and you say the magic, liberating words. "I'm not going to lie, the museum fatigue is really starting to hit me. My feet are killing me. I am completely museumed out. Let's go find a cafe, grab a coffee, and hit the gift shop on the way out."
It is a complete, satisfying, and entirely natural narrative arc.
It really is. It sounds exactly like two friends just living their lives, completely unburdened by language anxiety. And that brings us to the end of our journey today. Let's recap our core mission for the listener. When you travel abroad and spend your hard-earned money to visit these incredible institutions, it should be an inspiring, relaxing experience. It's a vacation. It should not feel like you're sitting for a stressful, high-stakes university exam.
You do not need to read every single plaque. You do not need to understand the juxtaposition of existential dread to be a valid participant in cultural spaces.
You just need to know how to wander. You need to find what you are naturally drawn to, what speaks to you. You need the confidence to be honest when a concept goes over your head. And above all, you need to know exactly when to surrender to the fatigue, say you are museumed out, and go get a coffee.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave the listener with a final thought to mull over. We talked quite a bit about the MoMA Museum tote bag. We joked about it being the ultimate physical souvenir of a cultured traveler, a literal badge you wear on your shoulder to show the world where you have been and what you appreciate.
Right. I went to New York and all I got was this great canvas bag to show off.
But consider this. Isn't learning the natural, relaxed language of the museum an even better invisible souvenir? Think about the immense internal confidence it takes to stand in front of a world-famous, multi-million-dollar painting, surrounded by a crowd of people who are pretending to be art experts, and simply authentically say out loud, "It goes over my head," without a single ounce of shame.
Wow, that is powerful.
When you can navigate a physically exhausting and culturally intimidating space with that kind of honesty and ease, rather than hiding behind the heavy, stiff armor of textbook English, haven't you actually mastered the culture far more deeply than someone who is just nervously pretending to understand the jargon? The true souvenir isn't the canvas bag you carry on your shoulder. It's the comfort you carry within yourself.
The comfort you carry within yourself. That is a beautiful, profound way to look at it. It's about taking off that heavy, formal tuxedo we talked about at the beginning and just walking along the beach in comfortable clothes. You are finally experiencing the world on your own terms.
Exactly.
I want you, the listener, to really think about that invisible souvenir. And I want you to visualize your next trip. What is the most breathtaking museum or exhibition you have ever visited? Or, if you're planning a trip right now, what is the absolute must-see museum at the very top of your bucket list? Is it the Louvre in Paris, the Met in New York,
Yeah.
or maybe a tiny, strange, niche museum hidden down a quiet side street in London?
It could be anywhere.
Wherever it is, I want you to remember the tools you learned today. Keep practicing these phrases out loud. Say them to yourself in the mirror, focusing on the flow and the sounds. Stay endlessly curious about the world. And above all, step into those grand soaring halls and confidently navigate the space. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining us on this deep dive.
Safe travels and happy wandering.